So today is 2nd October. It's my birth month. Now I'm going to prepare my favorite egg stew for my beautiful friend. I just want to give her a treat, like I love her like that. Yeah, so she wants to feature. Yeah, I'm going to prepare some egg stew. I'm going to show you guys how I prepare my egg stew. Ha! If you taste that egg stew, you will clap for me. Like you would, give me an award for best cook. So without wasting much time, let's get to work. Stay tuned, alright? Hello guys, so I'm about to start making my egg stew. I have some tomatoes, some onions, some garlic, some ginger, some oil, salt to taste, pepper soup spices. I have some powdered pepper, some shrimps, powdered shrimp, eggs, and tomato paste. So let's get right into making our eggs. Hi guys, so the first thing that I did was to chop my tomatoes. With this stew, I am not going to use blender or anything. I'm just going to chop and grate every ingredient that I'm going to use, except of course the ones that are already made, like salt and the shrimp powder, the pepper. Yeah, so I just decided to cut my onions, chop them into cubes so that they'll be able to melt easily and then faster. After I went ahead to slice my onions, I used one huge onion for this. You decide to use the number of onions that you want, but then because of the stew that I was making, I wasn't going to make a lot. I decided to use just one onion for my stew. So you slice them, and then I decided not to cut them too small or too big, just something something that can be easily fried or be eaten easily or chewed without difficulty. Yeah, because not everyone wants to see their onions in their stew. I went ahead to grate my garlic, and I used 2 cloves for the stew, and then I also grated my ginger. I'm not a fan of ginger, but then my friend is, so cooking for her I had to add some ginger, so I grated it and just went ahead. So yes, I had already broken my eggs. I actually used 4 eggs for this stew. That is the number I wanted to use. You can use 6, you can use 8, depending on how you want your egg stew to be. Ou bien to taste like, I'm sorry for the French, or to taste like so sorry when you have so many things going on in your mind. I speak English, I speak French, so sometimes I end up mixing it, but please pardon me. And so yeah, I whisk the egg a bit, yeah, that is what is supposed to be done. But then if you want to break it into the stew like that, you can do that as well. But then the best is to break it and then you whisk it. So yeah, my ingredients are ready and I am ready to prepare my egg stew. So I went ahead to switch on my electric stove. I used a frying pan for this stew. I didn't want to use any saucepan, so yeah, because the stew wasn't a lot. So I went ahead to I switched on my cooker, and yeah, so I used just a little bit of oil because I don't like to have so much oil in my stew. I'm trying to, watch my weight, my health, and my cholesterol level at the same time, so I don't use too much oil to cook. So some oil in the frying pan, and I put in some bay leaf, just to like give it some flavor, some great smell, great aroma, not smell, great aroma. So yeah, I fried my bay leaf. I used just one because the bay leaf was really huge. I didn't want to also break them into bits or into pieces, so I just left it in the oil for it to fry just like that. Then I went ahead to fry my garlic and my ginger. I did this because I wanted a very nice aroma. Usually for my stews, I fry my garlic and my ginger, with the oil before any other thing. I did this because I felt like the garlic and the ginger wasn't blended. So how else could I have done it? I just figured it out, and so I decided to like just fry it just to get the flavor and then the aroma out of the spices. These are the natural spices that I was using, so that is the best I could do, and that is what I wanted to do. Then I added my onions to it to fry or to cook, to leave it to cook for at least 5 to 10 minutes. I actually used a spoon to make this stew because my friend had just moved into her apartment, and so we didn't have a ladle. So yeah, the best thing is to use a wooden spoon. I usually like to use wooden spoons when cooking, but then because we didn't have any, that is why I'm using a spoon. Please forgive me. So yeah, when my onions were cooked, I just added some tomato paste. I didn't add a lot of tomato paste because I wanted to taste the actual tomatoes than to taste the tomato paste. So I just added a little bit. So I left it to fry. If you guys can see, there is nothing like water in this my stew. Like, I don't like adding water, even if I'm using like blended ingredients or blended onions, pepper, garlic, ginger. I barely add water to it. I don't want the water to dilute my stew, so I try my best to avoid any liquid, except of course the oil that I'm using in preparing the stew. So yeah, I mean, that is what I want, and I think it gives me the best of taste. So yeah, I fried my my tomato paste, I'm so sorry, tomato paste, for it to become a bit dried. And then I went ahead to add my tomatoes. The tomatoes also has water in it, so there's no point in adding water. But then again, in as much as the tomatoes has water, I still allow the water to evaporate. Not like everything, but then like 80% of the water to evaporate from the stew before serving it. So I left my tomatoes, my sauce on fire for it to cook. And as time goes by, like the tomatoes soften enough and then it melts. It now becomes like proper stew. I don't know how to explain it, but then when you leave it on fire, you also have to leave your heat on, very low temperature, very, very low temperature for the stew to cook really well. If you put it on high temperature, it may end up burning and you think that your stew is ready, but then it may not be ready. So I left it on fire. I added my powdered pepper, I added my powdered shrimp, and I added my pepper soup spices. If you don't know what pepper soup spices is, you really need to have a Nigerian friend. My friend is Nigerian, so I know what pepper soup spice is. It actually gives it like a very, very good, taste. I mean, I think it's a combination of natural spices, which is used for a delicacy called pepper soup in Nigeria. So I love to add the pepper soup spice to my stew. I also added some salt to taste, because of course you can't, well, I'm not on a salt diet. Yeah, so I just added a little bit, to taste. Yeah, and I went ahead to like stir for 3 minutes to make sure that my seasoning is well blended in, and left my stew on fire for at least 10 minutes for it to simmer. Whilst doing that, my rice is already on fire, so watch out for this space. Yeah, so after my stew had simmered for 10 minutes, I added my eggs to it, and I left it on fire for at least 5 minutes for the egg to cook or to blend in very well with the stew. So when you pour in your egg, you don't just leave it like that. You try to like mix it, but then you don't mix it too much, otherwise you have your eggs in tiny bits. You just mix it a little bit, like make sure it has blended in well for it to boil. Because some of us, we want to see the egg in the egg stew. We don't want it mashed or just mixed in very well with the stew. We just want to exceed it. And then after I added my eggs, I also added like a cube of Maggi, yeah, just for flavor. But you can also do away with Maggi if you don't like eating Maggi. It's not compulsory. You can do away with Maggi. I think you can actually end at adding your crayfish or your shrimp powder or your pepper soup spice or any natural spices that you have, rosemary, basil, all those things that you have at home. Yeah, it depends on you. Yeah, so at this point my egg stew was almost ready. You can see the eggs, you can see the onions, you can see the tomatoes. You can just see everything, and it looks really lovely. It looks colorful. I loved the aroma. It really smells so great. So yeah, I decided to go ahead to taste my stew with some rice. This is just tasting. This wasn't the actual meal. Thank you guys for watching. Love you. See.